Hello, welcome to Sabretooth and Nethemba, where we care about your security. Something a bit different today, as I had this request. I really enjoy your content, thank you very much, and I'm also running Linux Mint. I have no clue on how to use tools such as Metasploit, etc. on it. I tried Catooling, but it almost broke my OS. Is it possible to have a video on your setup and how you make it work? I said, certainly, I'll do a video regarding tool setup for non-Kali/Parrot Linux OS. I'm going to use Linux Mint because that is what I use generally. I created a list of the top 20 tools you may need, some of which are going to be already installed on the OS. I'm going to go into detail on how to install Linux Mint, Burpsuite, Curl, Dirb, enum4linux, GDB, Gobuster, Hashcat, Hydra, John the Ripper, Metasploit Framework, Netcat, Nikto, Nmap, OpenVPN, Python 3, Rdesktop/Remmina, Searchsploit, SMBClient, SQLMap, and WPScan. This could be a long video, guys, but I'm going to cut out a lot of the just waiting for things to install. I've already downloaded Linux Mint, so let's go right from the start, I guess. linuxmint.com, and then immediately download. Whether you're using Windows or Linux, doesn't matter, you can download it the same. If you go to download, it automatically, it doesn't matter. I was going to say automatically detects your OS, but it won't matter because these are the ISO files. Now, generally I use Cinnamon, but because I'm putting this in a virtual machine just for demonstration purposes, I don't want to set up a whole new system, you see. I can delete this afterwards. I'm actually, really, the XFCE would have been perfect for this, but I'm actually using the Mate edition here, which I don't use too often. Linux Mint comes in Ubuntu and Debian flavors. There's the Linux Mint Debian edition. You can see it here. I'm using Ubuntu version for now, and you just go to download, and literally that's it. And there's the ISO file. So what you would generally do is you would use something like Rufus on Windows, or you can go to disk or USB or something like that, image writer, or you can go to disks. To make this into a bootable image, you stick it in the USB port, reboot your system, and you should be able to, depending on BIOS settings, install your OS. But virtual machine is fine. Now, I'm going to pre-warn you that in running a virtual machine, it's going to take a good chunk of my RAM, and therefore, this is an old laptop, you know, and therefore my cam may stutter and things may go weird. So let's do this. We're going to go File, Machine, New, and we are doing Linux Mint here. Okay, choose your ISO image. Okay, I just had to trim the part out of the video where you saw literally all my files. You find your ISO image and just install open here. Next, so you have unattended guest OS setup, which you can use if you wish, and it has already things in there. But I mean, you can do this yourself. So I'll do sabretooth, and I'm going to put in my password, which I always use. Come on, I don't always use the same password, but I do for initial installs. Guest editions, if you wish. So I don't have the guest editions ISO, but we'll just leave it like that, I think. Domain name, so the host name here, we've already got one called Linux Mint, I think. So I'm just going to put Mint. Might because it had a space in it or whatever, I don't know. It's fine. Now RAM, I mean, I don't want to give it too much, because if I give it a lot of RAM, it will really tank my system. We don't need much, but I'm going to give it, shall I give it 8? Shall I give it 8 gig-ish? I'll give it 8 gig and see what happens there. That's basically half the RAM on this system. I told you it's fairly old. Let's give it 6 just to be on the safe side. About that. And going, I shouldn't really have to show you how to use VirtualBox or VMware. You can do either. This is literally just now 25 gig for all these apps should be enough. I can give it a bit more. Could go to like 40 gig or something like that. Just so we have, okay, good. So now we're going to be installing Linux Mint, and there's a lot here which I'm going to be ending the video and then restarting the video and so on, because failed to boot. Okay, that's always fun. Cancel. Let's take a look. So sometimes this happens as well. We have Linux Mint, can't run guest install. Okay. Useful. Useful. So we have, hang on, cancel. We have devices. Let's take a look at optical drives, and we're going to use this Linux Mint here. That's probably the one that's missing. So we will go again, reset. There we go. So start Linux Mint here. Now, I don't really have to install Mint. I could just run the live version here and install all my apps and everything and just show you how to install all the tools. But we'll do an install just because it makes it seem a little bit more realistic, I guess. I suppose you could use a live environment for your pen testing distro. There's no real reason not to. Spectre V2 mitigation leaves CPU vulnerable to ret bleed attack. We'll talk about ret bleed when we need to. Not yet. Don't worry about any errors or anything. You'll see if there's a huge problem. I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Oh, man. Singular sneeze? How rare. Oh, no. Okay, yep, singular sneezes are rare, so, okay. I'm going to stop this and continue when we have something happening. Okay, I was just reading up on some things, so it took a bit longer than it should have done. Now you'll see that I've got this scroll bar on the side here, and I've not yet got a toolbar down here, and that's because we don't have the guest editions. So if we now go to insert guest edition CD, you won't have to do this if you install natively. This is only a VirtualBox / whatever thing. So it's not got that here. Media locked, could not mount the drive. Okay, so we will deal with that later. Is because this is a live version, we need to actually install the thing. So I mean, you can just double click and go through the install procedure. I think you can do it that way. I don't see why not. You can see that we're gradually getting to the bottom of that. So slow. Okay, but you can just drag. There you go. You have all your options and things here. So what I was doing is just waiting for the install thing just what I mean about hardly any RAM on this system. Giving it 6 gig is like next to nothing at this point, but it'd be alright once it's, because it's a live environment, it'll be okay once it's installed. It'd be much quicker anyway, so this could take a while. So once again, I'll be back when something happens. Okay, just the basics of installing Mint, I guess. It's very, very straightforward. You don't need a tutorial for this, I promise. So you choose your language. This is going to take ages because of the amount of RAM given and the amount being used. I maybe should have bumped up the RAM for this, and then I could get rid of it again once it's installed. So English UK for me. We should then get the map of the world, probably. Eventually. Sometime in our lifetime. Sounds like my wife is destroying the house. Install the multimedia codecs if you want to. It's going to add a little bit of time to the install, but it'll save a lot of hassle later. Preparing Ubuntu drivers. So you can see that this is based on Ubuntu, despite the fact it's Linux Mint. And as I say, there's the Debian edition, which I think is actually a little bit quicker. From what I remember, I used the Ubuntu edition for no reason other than it's just the first one that's there. So the Debian one actually I think is much nicer. So the next time I do an install, I would definitely be using that. There's not much to say at this point. It's just a case of clicking through the options, and when it comes to disk man, because I'm going to skip all this because you don't need to see it. When it comes to, I'll come back if there's something you do need to see. When it comes to disk management, I'm obviously going to put delete the whole and use the whole disk, because this is a virtual machine and there's no reason not to use that whole 40 gig that I've given to the system. Whereas if you're installing and you've already got Windows on your system, you may want to resize the Windows partition and then install alongside it, and then you can install Grub, and that means you can choose your OS when you start, and that's a dual boot. So, okay, I'm just going to click through these, and if there's anything that's worth seeing, I'll definitely come back for that. Okay, I've gone through the whole, erased the whole disk, and I've chosen my location. I've just put London, even though I'm not really in London. And this is important here when you create an account, because what's going to happen is this user that you set up now is going to have it's not the root user, but it will have sudo rights, so that you can sudo su and that'll get you into the root account, or you can run sudo whatever you wish. You can encrypt your home folder if you wish. There's no real point in doing that for me right now. Require my password to log in. No, I'm just going to log in automatically. I'm the only one using this system. This is all fine for me. And besides, I'm going to be deleting this system anyway once I've installed it, because this is just a obviously a demonstration, and I thought I'd start from the beginning. So you have your progress bar, and quite literally we are just waiting, so I'll be back soon. Okay, eventually we end up here. Installation has finished. So what I like to do, whether you need to do it or not, I'm not too sure, but I remove the disk so it doesn't boot back into the live system. Remove the disk here. And then restart. And it should now boot into the installed operating system. At least I'm hoping so. Yeah. So don't worry about all these errors and failed and things like that, because it's trying to unmount. I think it's already trying to unmount that disk that I've just manually done, so that's okay. At this point, we have failed to execute shutdown. That's actually okay. That's because I unmounted that disk. Don't do that, guys. Don't do that. But what we can do is go machine reset. And that should be okay. Yeah, we've not got any disk in there at the minute. That's fine. At this point, we just wait, as always. So people have asked me, why don't I just use Kali, which has got all these programs installed, or Parrot OS? Okay, the reason that I use Linux Mint, Kali is great for pen testing stuff. The problem is it doesn't have much of anything else that I would prefer on an operating system, or the general tools. You know, it's got like LibreOffice, perhaps, maybe. But most of the things that I would use as a general OS, it doesn't have, but it does have all the hacking stuff. I find it a lot easier to have an OS which has everything I want generally, and then I can install the hacking stuff individually. So, whilst this is booting up, I'd like to give a shout out or a recommendation. I'm looking at my phone because I have the list of things here. Okay, yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to Exegol. Not a sponsor, by the way, but you may prefer this instead of having to set everything up yourself. Personally, I don't, and again, I'll explain why. So Exegol, what it is a container, a Docker container, and you can install this, and it has all your tools already installed. There are a couple of reasons why I don't use this myself. So it says, why isn't it free anymore? It is free, but there are caveats, as it says here. Paid tiers, so core features remain free and open source, and Pro Enterprise offer more priority support and help. We have the documentation here as well, so a list of tools on here. So the free image tool list, for AMD and ARM. I'll just put it in. I'll just put it in here. Actually, it doesn't matter where it goes. So Exegol already has all of this. It's got Aircrack and Amber and Bloodhound, and I'm only doing the top 20 tools, but as you can see from this, it has Burpsuite, Cool as well. I forgot all about Cool. We've used it once, haven't we, so far? CyberChef, yeah, okay, CyberChef, fair enough, why not? Enum for Linux, Evil WinRM. fcrackzip is a good one for cracking zip file passwords. Not yet had to use that on the channel. Gobuster's in here, and basically Hashcat. Most of what you'll ever need is part of the Exegol framework, and so you can install this as a Docker container, and it's got already got all your tools. Now, I don't use this for two reasons. Firstly, the pricing. It's fine for certain things, and you can see there's a lot of tools on there, but non-commercial use. So for Burpsuite, for example, I've got a commercial, I've got a pro key for this for Nethemba, and so I would have to pay £20 a month to use their pro version. You can't use it for commercial use, and as a pen tester out in the field, that is commercial use, so I would have to pay per month, and for me it's just not worth doing that. It may be possible for me to use Exegol, the free version, and then anything missing like Burpsuite Pro I can install separately. Possible, right? It's a possibility. So think about Exegol, and it'll have just about everything you wish. But I'm going to show my setup, and I install the tools which I use most often manually, and then any which aren't there, any which aren't on this list, I install as I go, as you've seen in my videos. So let's see. Welcome to Linux Mint. Get rid of this. Okay, we've still got this issue where it's not showing the full screen. So at this point, devices, insert guest editions. You don't have to do this if it's a native install. But because this is a virtual machine, we're going to run this, and it should sort out everything that needs to be sorted out. You'll see. I'm sure you know how to use virtual machines. I'm not insulting anybody's intelligence, but this is an absolute beginner's tutorial, right? So installed in the OS as well. VBox gas, yeah, lovely. Guest editions, obviously, but can't be a bit of VBox gas. Installing additional modules. There's a lot of waiting around here. So the first thing we're going to do once this is installed, or even beforehand, is open a terminal. In fact, we're going to wait for this to install because it could actually be locking the updates and things due to installing things here. I'll be back once this is done. It probably shouldn't take long from this point, but whatever. Okay, you can see that this is done, and it's actually got worse. The screen's got smaller. It says press enter to close this window, and you can see we're down here. But now we have guest editions. So we can do full screen mode or scaled mode. And if we go scaled, you can see that it stretches to the size of our screen. We can do full screen mode, or we can just do regular mode, which, hang on, bear with. There we go, that's better. Just didn't want all my files in the background. So scaled mode isn't bad because you can just resize to whatever you want, but it does stretch. You can do full screen mode and so on and so forth. So from this point, I'm actually going to go full screen mode, which is host and F for full screen. Host being the right control key, you can see. And now this has gone full screen. We are basically here. Now you can see how slow this is. Because it's only got a little bit of RAM. It takes a long time, but there we have it. The first thing you should do when installing Linux, absolutely the first thing you should do, is sudo apt updates. Now, if you're using a different distribution, you won't be using apt. You'll be using the you won't be using the aptitude. You'll be using something else. But if you update these packages, it shows you then what can be updated to install. There's no point in upgrading the packages from an outdated repository. So you're updating the repository first. It says 326 packages can be upgraded. You could do apt upgrade. You can also do dist upgrade, as in distribution upgrade, and it gets all the kernel files and things like this, new versions. So we will do this. It may take a while, and if it does take a while, we'll go from there. Now you can see this bar at the very bottom, not this bar, under that, and this one. That pops up, and this is your menu here. So the menu, which would generally be at the top, you've now got at the bottom. And you can change screen sizes and so on and so forth. At the moment, once again, believe it or not, we are just waiting. However, it does show 33%, so maybe this won't take long. Yeah, I would recommend Exegol for all your needs. If you're not going to be using pro versions of things, you can, for example, with Burpsuite, move the key file over and then register it. The problem is every time the container starts, you'll need to do that again, and Portswiggle will definitely complain if you register the same key multiple times, so I recommend not doing that. We're doing firmware at the minute, but it's just good to have everything up to date, and you can see the sort of things it's installing. You got like a full list going on here. As you can see, we've got Python 3 here, or part of Python 3 happening. Anything else that we may recognize? libpython, GPG agents. We've got a full list here anyway. So it's definitely worthwhile doing this. 88%. I was going to stop the video, but there's really no point at this point. No point at this point. I know what I mean. Because we're 96. But having said that, that's just downloading. Installing is another thing altogether. We'll see how long this is likely to take, and then, you know what, I'm just going to stop the video anyway. Oh, I can't do that here because I'm in the wrong mode. So Control F to get rid of the full screen mode. To be fair, I might just leave it like that because that's perfect. I've got my bar and I've got my main OS bar at the bottom. I've got this at the top, menus, so I'm quite happy with that, really. Okay, when this is done, I will certainly be back. Okay, you'll see that a couple of hours has gone by. It's not taken that long, but my wife thought this would be a great time, and I agree, to go out for a walk and then get some lunch. So that has been done. So looking at my list, Burpsuite is first. Now, Burpsuite is definitely not in the repos. And you can always tell if something's in the repo or not by doing something like that. So this is like a brand new install, so Firefox will be going mental at this point and everything will be in light mode and blinding us. We don't want that. How do we change to dark mode? This really doesn't matter. You don't have to change to dark mode, but you know. There's got to be an easy way of doing this somewhere, but I can't find it. It doesn't matter. Website appearance, dark, yes. That's the one. There we go. Much better. Life is good. Okay. So you can literally Burpsuite straight off. A lot of this is just go to the website and install the software, but as people have said, you know, we've had trouble with Metasploit framework and things like that based on here. No clue how to use tools such as Metasploit, etc. on it. So we're going to go through it all anyway. What I'm going to do with this video is I'm going to provide chapters, as you'll see. If you go to the bottom, and you can jump to wherever you wish, but if you want to watch the whole thing, that'll help me out. Community edition is probably what you want unless you have a key for it. And I'm just looking to see what it has. Yeah, so community edition there, professional edition there. That's the idea. Try Pro for free if you really want to. Nice. So we're just products, and community edition is here. Is that where we was at? Community download, okay. Fine. So they don't make it very easy to find what you're looking for. As you can see, it's I'm just looking for the download, and it's not very easy to find on here. Okay, so go straight to downloads. It's this tiny link, you know, on this whole page. That's just me, I'm blind, don't mind that. And again, it's still trying to get you to get the professional edition here, so you have to change it to community. x64, yeah, absolutely, we are running an x64 version of Linux here. Cat etc OS release, and you can see this is mint 22. Oh, we've not actually got here, so let's do uname A instead, and you can see here that we have 64-bit here. Okay, and that's it. I think that's it. It's downloading now. So whilst that is downloading, the next one is curl. Curl should be already installed. That's it, it's already installed. Okay, you can do curl help. So that's 2 down, 18 to go. Well, I say that, I've not installed this yet, have I? Let's do that. Open. It's a sh file. And once it eventually stops freezing, you know, it will it will eventually stop. I told you, it's just the amount of RAM here and so on. Okay, so this is opening in Nano or something like this. It's opening in a text editor. That's why it's freezing, because it's trying to open. So what we need to do is we can go to downloads, because that's where it would be. As you can see here, we need to change the mode. So now you'll see it's green. That means it's executable, and it's just to run the file. That's how we do it. And you can run it from here, or you could just type bash Burpsuite community, etc, etc, etc. That is now gone. This will be running. We'll get the install eventually. Unpacking Jari. There we go. Having to install Java, the Java runtime environment. So while that's running, let's continue. The next one is Dirb, D-I-R-B, and if you put it in and it doesn't exist, it does say it can be installed just with this. So sudo, and then your aptitude, this is your repository, and let's get this running first. This is your Burpsuite, graphical, and we're just doing the default options here, and that is it. And then install Dirb. So whoops. You need to put in your password for using sudo, and then once you've done that, it will ask you yes or no whether you want these packages to be installed, a lot of the time anyway. Not always. So if you didn't do that repository update earlier, then it probably means that you may be installing an outdated version of Dirb, and you're going to, you know, sort that out later. So always update your packages as much as you can first. Let's see how the Burpsuite is going. Yeah, that's taking its time, and Dirb is taking its time as well. So we will just leave this running. Now, it's not a good idea to install 2 things at once. So if I was to open a new tab and try sudo apt install what's next on the list, you know, enum for Linux or whatever, it wouldn't be able to do so, because this window here has locked the repository, and that way you can't install 2 things and they're both trying to access different files at the same time. It can cause collisions and really cause problems on occasions in certain cases. So this is now done, and now we can, you know, Dirb, and we can just run that. It's a scanner, right? So, you know, Dirb, and then you put in whatever URL, but of course we're not going to do that because that's illegal. We can't scan websites. I mean, I can put my own website, but I won't. So let's wait till Burp's done, because that way we can just, at the minute, we've got Mint, we've got curl, we've got Dirb, we've got Burp. Do you know what? Let's do enum for Linux as well. And you can put this here, enum for Linux, command not found, right? So the thing is, it doesn't say you can install it using this. If I try doing what I did before, enum for Linux, you'll see that it won't find it. So let me introduce snap. So if we do sudo apt, well, I'll just put snap and just see what it comes up with. Okay, sudo apt, it tells you exactly what to do, install snapd. Now snap, a lot of people don't like this. I don't mind it. It's another repository on top of the, oh, no installation candidate. That's interesting. Interesting. So let's just try snap without the D on the end and see what happens. That might be what I'm looking for. It's another repository. So there's the Ubuntu repository, which Mint uses. And then there's the snap repository, which is just an extra place to download things. Okay. So I'm just covering the logo on my cup because that's my wife's workplace. So I don't really want to start doxing people in the house. So now if we try and install enum for Linux, oh, I thought it might be in the snap repository, but it isn't. So this is the first one that we're kind of stuck with. Right, Burp is done, finish, and you'll see Burp will now appear under here. Burpsuite community. Okay, so when you start getting stuck with things like this, I'd rather not look at him. Enum for Linux. So we can have a look and see if there's any guidance on how to install this thing, because it's on Kali Linux tools. We don't really want to go here, because if we go here, this just shows, it might actually show how to install it on other systems, but this is mainly for Kali. But let's take a look. So it's written in Perl and it does this, that and the other. Okay, installed. So it says use sudo apt install enum for Linux, but this is the repository for Kali, not the repository for Ubuntu and Mint. Okay, so there's nothing here about installing it on other distros. So the way I would then go about this, you can see there's a GitHub, and you can probably do it this way. And then there's enum for Linux ng, which is, I think, a newer version. Yeah, absolutely. So what we'll do is we'll go for the enum for Linux on Hacker Recipes here. We could take a look at the GitHubs in a minute. But generally you can find a place which talks about these things and how to install them. So not here. Okay. So lately a rewrite of enum for Linux in Python has surfaced called enum for Linux ng. So yeah, this is the new version. I think I just have the old one on my current system. So we'll go to the GitHub here, and you should be able to install this using this. So let me show you how that works. Legal note run. So maybe this one doesn't need installing if it's directly a Python script. So there are a few ways. So manually install. Okay. So I've not even tried enum for Linux SG. So we can just do that and see if that exists, which it doesn't. So manual installation. Okay. So it has dependencies which need setting up first. These should be available for all Linux distributions. You'll also need LDAP 3 and InPacket and so on and so forth. Okay, so it shows Debian, Ubuntu and Mint. we can install all of these dependencies here. It gives us this already straight off. So we do sudo, we put these in, and it will install all the dependencies that this package needs. Okay. Whilst that is installing, if just in case you don't quite know, we're using the aptitude repositories. So we're installing SMBClient, Python 3, LDAP 3, and all these, right? So how do we get this from GitHub? You can either download it as a zip file, or you can use the GitHub command line interface, which isn't too bad to use, I guess. Personally, this is using GH. I prefer Git. I don't think it really matters. Hang on, open new terminal. Does Git exist? Okay, let's install that next. See, it's just so many things. Sometimes they're quite nested, and sometimes it's chain of things. So it's installing Python 3, all this stuff. And as soon as that's done, let's try doing this now, and I'll show you what I mean about the lock. Oh, that's just finished, so there might not be a lock. Okay, no matter. So we're now going to install the GitHub. And the best way to actually, in my mind, get things from GitHub is to take the web address ending in .git there. And when that's installed, we do git clone that. And that will download this whole package. Okay, so if we now look here, we have enum for Linux ng. See, I would put this in my tools directory, but that's fine. We're going to go cd enum for Linux ng, and then it's just here. So Python 3, run that, and you'll see that enum for Linux next generation. I've not even got this on my current on my pen testing system, so I may have to update, but there you go. And that's it. So we have enum for Linux installed as well. So let's take a look at what we've done so far based on my list. We've done Linux Mint, Burpsuite, curl, Dirb, enum for Linux, GDB, the GNU debugger. Should already be there. Let's clear this. GDB. Yeah, already sorted. Exit. Right. If you're wondering why the terminal looks weird compared to what you're used to seeing, the one thing I've not done, and it's not important, but I prefer it because I'm colorblind. So it's easier on the eyes for me, plus it kind of looks traditional, I guess. Colors, and then I would do the built-in schemes, which is not the built-in schemes. Custom, get rid of that. I would do green on black. That's just how I do things, and I find that easier on the eyes than black, white on black. So GDB is done. Next up is Gobuster, Hashcat, Hydra. Okay, now Gobuster is going to be a tricky one because it's a Golang. Oh, actually no, it's in the repos. Cool. Sudo apt install Gobuster. Nice. Maybe it's not as bad as I thought it'd be. It used to be that it wasn't in the repos and I had to manually install this from the docs. Let's just take a look at the docs. Because if you're not using Mint, then it might not be in the repo here. So we have GitHub Gobuster. So again, it's going to be a git clone. They need to make sure all the dependencies are installed and so on and so forth. So let's take a look here. So quick start, okay, install. So you use Golang here. You use go install GitHub. So you first need to install the Golang binaries. If I just put go, again, we've now got version 2.1.21.2. They're pretty much the same actually, so it doesn't matter where you get them from. And you can install it this way. I'm going to do so anyway because we might need it eventually. But you'd have to do that, and once that's installed, you run this and install Gobuster. Right? It's fine. It's fine. You can install it that way. So as you can see, there are multiple ways of installing things. You can even build it yourself from the source. So git clone, we've already done this. You download this, and then you go into the Gobuster directory, and then you run the tidy and then build, and it builds the scripts. Okay, builds the application from the source files. Okay, where are we now? Hashcat, Hydra, John the Ripper, Hashcat. Same as always. Hang on, let's finish this first. Might take a while. Go is quite long, so Hashcat. It ain't doing anything. Come on. And again, it's exactly the same as before. See if I can grab the lock this time, because that's still installing. So it could not get the lock because it's locked by this install. So we have to terminate this and wait. It's just a case of waiting. Okay. Now Go could take ages, so I'm going to stop this and come back when it's done. Okay, I'm back, and Go as it installed. We can go back to our what was the next one? Hashcat. So if they're in the repos, easy. Okay. And that's it for Hashcat. I'll run it in a second just to make sure Hydra is next. So let's go here, and we will do Hydra, and we'll see that it's in the repos, right? A lot of them are. And this is why it's not too difficult, except for certain tools. That's why it's not too difficult to build your own environment, providing you know what you're installing or what you need to install and where to get it from. You're going to have a much nicer time doing it this way. You can just put it all together. Okay, so this ain't too bad. I mean, it's not taking too long at the very least. Again, if I run this, we're going to get the lock issue because Hashcat is currently got the process locked. But if you leave it running and just leave it like this, then as soon as this completes, then that will take over the lock. And it's sometimes worth having a few tabs and just have all these apps install, and then they're all just waiting for the lock, and whichever one gets there first, and eventually they will all complete. But let's not do that. Let's just wait. Okay, 47. So John the Ripper is another one as well, and then we're on to line 2 of 3. Yay, Metasploit, that's the one that was mentioned. Now Netcat should already be there. Let's have a check on this one and see. Netcat's already there. But we'll do them in order. We're not going to get confused and start picking things out, saying what's there and what isn't. Okay. I do remember WPScan being awkward. I think everything else probably is okay, actually. Okay. So what are we on? Where were we? Where were we? Okay, that's done. So we can Hashcat, and you'll see now that it runs. Okay, and you can use the help file. Starting in help mode, etc. There it is. Okay, lovely. I love the way it says if you still have no idea what just happened. So the next one, Hydra. This is our Hashcat is our. Okay, let's just make sure we've got an idea of what all these do. Burpsuite is the one which catches the requests, web requests, and you're able to edit them and send them to the intruder and the repeater and so on. Curl is used for making outbound connections to websites and getting things back. Dirb is your directory brute forcer. Enum for Linux is good for Samba and things like that. GDB is your GNU debugger. It's good for buffer overflows and figuring out assembly and things. Gobuster, another directory scanner similar to Dirb. Hashcat will run word lists against hashes, so you're able to crack them. Hydra is your brute force tool. We've used it to brute force SSH, we've used it to brute force web forms and so on. John the Ripper, another one similar to Hashcat. So that's how far we've got. Released in a minute. Hydra works. Now, this one's interesting because if you put in John the Ripper, or you put in John the Ripper with that, it's not going to come up with anything, and you need to know that the command is actually just John. And it says here sudo apt install John. So sometimes it's worthwhile knowing the command which you use to run the app as well as the name of the app. So that's unpacking. This one's not taking long at all. He says, okay, and then you go to John, and obviously there we go. Right. Looking good, looking good. Where are we now? We've done all these. Metasploit framework. This is the one that was asked about. Okay, Metasploit framework. If you put in Metasploit, there's nothing there, and if you put in Metasploit framework, still nothing. Now, if you remember, when you run Metasploit, the command is actually MSF console, and there's also MSF Venom and MSF whatever. And if you run MSF console, again, we've not got anything here. It doesn't seem to be in the repo. It doesn't seem to be in the snap either. So this is going to be a fun one. Metasploit framework. There we go. That'll do. Framework. And you should be able to find the main website, metasploit.com. Okay, and you got here download straight off. Now this is written in Ruby. Don't think you'll have to install Ruby. I think it might do it for you. So we're using the open source version here, which we can download. And then it says here, installing Metasploit on Linux/Mac OS. Okay. So what this does, it goes to the GitHub here. It grabs this data and puts it inside a file called MSF install. Once that's created, the and means it then runs chmod 755, so it makes it executable, and then it runs the file to install it. So you could do all this as one command, or you could do it as 3 separate commands. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to put that in there. It's grabbing the file. It's now adding it to the repository list. Okay, the following new packages will be installed. Metasploit framework. So it's now in the repo. Meaning, if I do, actually I won't do it yet. This is still installing. But because it's now added to the repository, it means if you want to do any updates, or if you do sudo apt updates, it will include the Metasploit repo in that as well. So you don't have to keep grabbing new versions from the web every time. It's now added to your regular Ubuntu or Linux Mint repos here. So it's preparing to unpack. It is now unpacking, and you can see here from the .git, it's done from the official GitHub. Not sure how long this is going to take before it does something, so I may stop the video and come back when it's done, because Metasploit framework is fairly huge. So I'm going to stop here. Okay, this is now done, and it says run MSF console to get started. We know this normally takes a while to set up, but the reason I'm doing this now is because there's always a setup part. So we're running MSF console. Would you like to set up a new database? Yes, definitely. And what it does, it adds all of the exploits that Metasploit holds to this database, so that you can use the search function and look through that database to find them. If you didn't use a database, I think you could still use this, but the search function wouldn't work from what I remember. Running the init command for the database, and it's now creating it. It's storing it at home sabretooth msf4/db. It's now started the database and creating the users, so it's all automagic. All automagic. But it's definitely worthwhile seeing this setup. And you'll only have to do this the first time. You'll never have to run this again. Okay, initial setup complete, and that is it. That is absolutely it. And Metasploit will now start as normal. In theory. There it goes. So MSF takes ages to start up anyway. That's just its thing. I've got an ongoing bugbear about that. So let's take a look at what's next while that's running. We've done Metasploit framework. Netcat we know already exists, but let me just check again. Wrong one. There we go, MSF. So you can do MSF updates here, and adding Metasploit framework to your repository list, overwrite. Oh, I probably should have done that actually. Let's try that again. Okay, there we go. So we're overwriting, and this is the first time we're running an MSF update just to make sure that all the exploits in here are obviously up to date. And it seems to be doing I think it's already the newest version. Fantastic. And that's it. And we can just do like search MS08069, I think that's right, or 065 or something, I can't remember. So search WordPress. There we go, we're off. Nice. So exit, clear that. We're still in that directory. Let's get out of that directory. There we go. Good. Netcat, yeah, absolutely already installed. Don't have to worry about Netcat. Nikto, Nmap, OpenVPN. Okay. Netcat we've done that. Nikto, once again, already installed, including the AS realm, which you can't really argue with. So there's your Nikto. Yep. Nmap. Already installed, but obviously if not, you just do sudo apt install nmap. OpenVPN, already installed. Python 3, already installed. Rdesktop, already installed, but Remmina I prefer. This is what I use. Oh, and that's already installed as well. Remote desktop client. Lovely, we're nearly there. Searchsploit. Now, Searchsploit is let me just go through what we've just done as well. We know what Metasploit framework does. It's very useful. Netcat for making connections and receiving connections, like when we do a reverse shell. Nikto is quite a nice web scanner. Nmap is your port scanner. OpenVPN is used for connecting to VPNs, similar to try hack me's network and hack the box. Python is our programming language. Our desktop, remote desktop. For Windows, really, you can connect and get a graphical Windows environment. Searchsploit. So this is based on the ExploitDB website. So if I go to ExploitDB here, is it a dash? I can't remember. think so. And I think it's .com as well, yeah. So this used to be the Google hacking database. So now at Exploit DB, it's run by Offensive Security. And every single thing that's on here, if you put in like WordPress again as an example, here we go. So every single thing here, you see that this top one is, if I click on that, 52371. You can have a local version of this called Searchsploit. And we use this quite a bit. Now, this one doesn't seem to be in the repos either, which is quite interesting. So let's figure out how to install this one. Because this is definitely in Kali Linux now, as it happens. We've got a Searchsploit manual here, which is nice. Let's take a look. Written by Exploit DB, which is even better. Included in our exploit database repo and GitLab. So this one's a GitLab repo. Okay, so let's take a look down, and it shows how to install Linux, Mac, Windows. So Kali Linux we already have. It's in the Kali Linux already has it. It's in the aptitude repos here. Whereas if you're not using Kali Linux, it may not be available, in which case you can continue by the following instructions under the Git tab. So let's do that. And this is going to be another Git clone similar to what we've done before. So what we're doing is we're running Git clone, and we're downloading this file, and we're storing it in opt exploit database. Okay. So we're going to look through all these optional things as well, symbolic links and changing the path and things like this, and I'll explain it as we go. We're going to use sudo, and we have to use sudo because opt is a protected. Let's do it without sudo. Opt is a protected directory, and if you don't have sudo rights, you're going to get permission denied. Interestingly enough, did you know that if you now do sudo with that, it runs the previous command with sudo in front? Shortcut for you. There you go. Okay, so the reason why there's so many things for it to grab is because all the exploits that are in Exploit DB are going to be downloaded and saved to your system in text files. This is why there's so much stuff to grab here. Let's take a look at what's coming next. I know we've still got to set up all this, and I'll explain what it's doing in a second as well. Rather than just say run this, run this, run this, I'll explain why you need to run this and what it actually does to your system, because that way if something goes wrong, you've got a better idea on how to fix it. If that's the case, if you know how it works, then it gives you a much better chance. After Searchsploit, all we have is SMBClient, SQLMap, and WPScan, and we are done for my top 20 personally. But once again, I will have to say that you should take a look at Exegol, because it's got all this stuff in one container, and you just download the container and it's there. But I don't use it for reasons I've already stated, and I recommend that you at least take a look at it and see. I'm not sponsored by them, by the way, and there's no affiliate links on any of this software at all. Nobody's sponsoring me at all. And despite the fact that my channel is Sabretooth at Nethemba and I'm promoting the company I work for, I'm not actually sponsored by them either, but I am endorsed, so I'm not earning any money from my company from this. That's fine. That's not the idea. I'm doing this to spread awareness of our brand. I'm doing this to show what we can do, get a few customers this way. But my main reason is that I'm doing this because I've wanted to make this channel for a long time, and I feel that putting the company behind it gives it more of a legit feel. Does that make sense? So if you know that there's a pen testing company behind this and endorsing this, then yeah, it's going to give it a lot more weight than if it's just some idiot like me sat here going, wow, I do this, and then I do this, and then I do, you know. It's fine. Okay, this could take a while. I will wait until Deltas is done, and if it's going to keep installing loads more stuff, then I may as well... I'll stop the video anyway. Back in a few minutes. Okay, I'm back just because that took ages. We're not yet done, but we are updating the files, which I assume is the last thing, which it is. Okay. I can't remember what I was installing. What was I installing? Searchsploit. Still not found. Okay, so what I would normally do is just type Searchsploit and it would work. Now it does exist. It's in opt Searchsploit, I think, or something like that. Where doing opt exploit database. And we can run it this way. Okay. So the reason why it's not running straight from there is here. An optional step that will make using Searchsploit easier is to include it in your path. Now, do you remember we've done this in the box already? If you've been watching my channel, that is. If we echo our local path, we did this on a couple of boxes already. Is this right? Yeah, that's right. If we echo our local path, this is our path. And what we need to do is add opt exploit database, etc. there. A symbolic link works just as well. Create a symbolic link in user local bin directory. So if you go to user local bin, if we do ls there, you'll see that we've got a few things, but Searchsploit is not one of them. Now, the reason user local bin is an important one is because user local sbin is there, user local bin is part of the path, and really user local, this is the thing you can sort of mess with. Never mess with like etc bin and things like that. But user local, you can put your own binaries and so on, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a symbolic link. Now, we've used this before as well. We've done a symbolic link on the channel where we managed to link a file which could be run as sudo to the etc password file, and then make a change so that we created our own user as sudo. So this is what we're doing, and I will explain this command right now as we go. We're going to use sudo again for this, so we've got rights. So it's making a link, symbolic link, excuse me. So it's taking that as the target. That's the file we want to run, opt exploit database Searchsploit. And what it's doing in user local bin, it's creating this file called Searchsploit, and what it does, it just links to that, and that's all it's doing. Okay, that's it. So I know there's another stage still, but for now we're just going to see if Searchsploit by itself works, which it does, but it won't be able to find any many of the files that it's downloaded. So the last stage is to copy the resource file and edit it to match your system environment, so it points to the correct directories. So really, I mean, I don't think I've ever had to do this. I don't think I've ever really had to do this. So do you remember this WordPress one, 52371? If I right now do Searchsploit for WordPress, here they all are. The top one, just like the top one on the website, should be, oh my god, I know, 52171 is here. Okay, so it's different order or whatever. So was that one LearnPress WordPress 52171? Was that correct? Oh, 52371. So where's that gone? 523. So it's not got that one here that I can see. It will have it somewhere, but they're not in order. It's doing it in order of in order of, come on, what is it? This field, not these fields. But just to show that it does actually exist, I could do a grep, but I'm not going to do a grep. What I will do is I'll just round it down. Simple file list WordPress plugin. So if I do WordPress plugin, and I could do file list as well. Simple file list WordPress plugin. There it is. That's the one. And the path, as you can see, if I put in a W, I don't need to put a www. The full path is opt exploit database, and there. But what you can do is Searchsploit, and I think it's M. I could be wrong on this. I think it's M for copy, and I can put in the number 52371. And what that's done, it's taken that and it's not moved it, it's copied it to my current directory. Alternatively, I'd say I could do www, and it takes me straight to the website, exploit.db. So this last step, you could do that if you want, and it'll probably populate this sort of thing. Please remove this message, edit Searchsploit RC, which has package array exploit.db to point to. Please edit, which has package array exploit.db to point to. And this Searchsploit RC is what it's talking about here, right? Let's just run this first one. I don't really fancy going into Vim and changing all this, but let's just run this first one and we'll see what happens, shall we? Okay, so if we run this again, yeah, it's still got that issue. So I've never bothered fixing that issue and running that last step. It's not necessary in my opinion, but the instructions are there. Knock yourself out. Absolutely. Right? I'm not bothering. Good. That is Searchsploit. SMBClient should be installed by default. Or if not, it will have been installed with Enum for Linux. So that works. Two more. SQLMap and WPScan. Okay. Okay. Now SQLMap is in the repos. See, this time it didn't ask me whether I want to install yes or no. It's literally just getting on with it. So sometimes it asks you, sometimes it doesn't. Depends what mood it's in, I suppose. Depends if it's a weekend. Don't know. Depends if the month has got an A in it. I'm not sure. Anyway, SQLMap. No, would help if you could spell it. SQLMap. And you can see really that oh, I thought it was in the snap, but it isn't. No matter. And there we go, SQLMap is running, and the last one is WPScan. Okay, right, now this one's always a fun one. That's why I leave it till last. No, it's because it's alphabetical. I'm looking pretty dark. Can you still see me? You can see me, that's okay. WPScan does not exist in either the repo or in the snap. There are a few ways to do WPScan. There is the Docker container. Let's close some of these off. We don't need these here now. And it's not very easy to find what we're looking for either. Vulnerability scanning, that's jfrog.com, and that's bulletproof. And so here, wpscan.com is probably the best place to go to, how to install. Now, it used to be the case that I had to set up the Docker, but these days you don't have to do that. So there must be a way, yeah, so you can do it with Ruby Gems. So Docker isn't too bad. You got to pull that and then run it using Docker run itrm this, and then that's crazy. That is mental, using that command every single time. You can do it with Homebrew, that's on macOS, and then updating. So Docker is quite an awkward one to use here. Whereas if you do the Ruby Gem one, you need to install Ruby Gems, believe it or not. So we're going to go sudo and you'll see that gem is not found. Okay, so is it, if I put in gem just by itself, there you go. Command gem is not found, but it can be installed with sudo apt install in, there we go, Ruby 2b. I could just copied and pasted that, you know that. Ruby gems, there we go. So we're going to install this first. That's the dependency. That's the dependency. Get that installed. Whew. Long video today. At least for me. It might not be for you, but don't forget I've had to wait on installing Linux, updating the whole system and upgrading all the packages, and then waiting for things to install. I've been stopping and starting the video, so it might not be too long, but for me it's just been hours. Then I went out for a walk and had lunch, and it's taken most of the day. Well, maybe not quite. So if we try this again, sudo gem install WPScan. It should work this time because the Ruby gems are installed. It's not come up with an error immediately, but it's also not doing much. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we have an error. Error installing WPScan, failed to build gem native extension. Okay, so let's figure out why that is. You might have to install separate package for the Ruby development environment, Ruby dev or Ruby devel, for example. Okay, so it's told us that. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to try doing that. We're going to Ruby dev. I told you WPScan would be the fun one, didn't I? So we'll try that. Install that. Always read the error messages because usually they're quite useful. It seems to have stopped on 43%. I'll be back when this is done. Okay, it didn't take long. That's done. So now that we've tried that, let's sudo gem install WPScan one more time. Third time lucky, that's what they say. And see if it gets any further. Okay, building native extensions. This could take a while. Did it say that last time? That's... It didn't. It just said fetching. So it's obviously fetched everything from last time. And now it's trying to install it. And as you can see, a lot of it is currently successfully installed. How far did you get last time? It fetched everything and it couldn't install anything at all. So we're further than last time by installing that development package. Okay, back again in just a moment. Okay, I'm back, and as you'll see, it says here 23 gems installed. So all these different, what's the word I'm thinking of? Can't think of the word. Like prerequisites. I can't remember the word. It's just gone from my brain. Anyway, everything that we need to install first, it's already installed as well. So that should be it, and we should be able to run WPScan at this point. Prerequisites, that's the one. Prerequisites. And we can always just update that just to make sure that it is still fully up to date. That is our last tool. That's 20 of 20. Not bad going. There are others, obviously, and people are going to say, oh, what about this? What about this? Like things like Wireshark. I think Wireshark actually is already installed. It's not, but do you know what? It's not that difficult. It's not that difficult. A lot of them are just in the repos, and that's it. You're done, you know? So 21, bonus one, Wireshark. There you go. Fantastic. And that's it. We're done. We are done. So that is it. I've set up Linux Mint. I've not gone into the whole setup of Linux Mint as in what I would do regarding firewall rules and what I would do. Oh yeah, Wireshark's a great one. Should non-super users be able to capture packets? I'll say no. I'd like to be root when running this. I'm not going into how I would set up a system and harden it and make sure everything's fine and secure. But I have gone into how to install what I would say is probably the top 20 apps that I use when pen testing. Most of my work, because I'm a web pen tester, comes through Burpsuite and the directory scanners and things. I don't use much else, but when working on Hack the Box to try Hack Me, you can see I've used a multitude of things, some of which I've not even thought about installing here, such as StegHide. I did use that for that box, and look, you can just sudo apt install. I'm not going to do it. You know how it works at this point. Most of what you need you can find in the repos. What you don't, it's literally just finding the website and following the instructions that they give. If there isn't a website, then look for somebody who's done a write-up of how to install, and if you can't find that, go to the GitHub, clone the Git repository and install that way. That's it. There's nothing else to say. Oh, and you can build things from source, but I'm not going into that here. This is a beginner's guide. Nothing building things from source is a little bit complicated for that. But I'll cover it if somebody wants me to. So thank you, grumpy, not grumpy, that sort of face. HR10 Hirioi, is that meant to be? I don't know how to pronounce that name, but thank you for the suggestion, and hopefully that's helped you. Now, Katulin, I wouldn't, I really wouldn't if I were you. Exegol is the way to go if you're going to do something like that, but Katulin automatically install all Kali Linux tools. I don't know. Exegol is definitely the good alternative, because Katulin tries to install things natively, and as you say, it can break your system in many ways, whereas Exegol you can download and it's stored in a Docker container, and then you just access the container, and it's much easier. Okay, thank you for joining, thank you for sticking with me throughout this, and hopefully I've helped somebody, hopefully I've helped you, and please join Nethemba.com or visit Nethemba.com, sorry, for all your pen testing needs. I'm going to take a break. Bye guys.